Hello friends, welcome to one more tutorial of iTeaches. Today I am going to tell you how you can transfer the data from a web page into MySQL database and again from MySQL database into the web page. So stay tuned. And friends, if you like this tutorial, then please like, share and subscribe. So friends, as you can see over here that I have created total 4 files. Alright, here I am having create.html, then create.php and login.html and login.php. Alright, now in create.html I am going to create a new user. Alright, now to when I create this user, I have to pass the user ID and the password, and that will be processed by create.php. And now create.php will send or store all these records inside MySQL database, and this MySQL database can be used further when I'm using for the login window. Now what happened when I log in, I have to again pass the user ID and the password and then send those information for processing. So that login.php is going to process all this information by validating whatever I have entered. Like if I entered ID and the password, so that will again checked inside the MySQL through a SQL query, and that I have already written inside login.php. So that will be processed, and in the next section also you are going to see that only that how to write down all these codes and how the processing will be going on. So that login.php play a very important role over there. Now if the user ID and the password is correct, in that case a successful login will be there, and if it is not, then an error message will be displayed. So this is overall structure of this particular project, that how I'll create that HTML using HTML, how I'm creating a new user account, and how I'm going to log in, that I have already mentioned over here. Now the important thing is where I have saved these 4 files actually. So these 4 files must be saved inside a server. Now in this case, in our case, I'm using Apache server. So I'm using XAMPP software suite, and in that I'm getting as I have already mentioned in my previous videos also, that I'm using a XAMPP suite where I'm getting MySQL as well as a PHP processor along with some other softwares also. So here I'm going to show you in the next that how you can and where you can save this one. So let's see. Now here is the place where I'm saving this one. Now you can see here I'm having total 4 files. Now one is create. This is create.html files. This is the PHP file of create to process that create information. This is a login, which is going to process this login information. That is login HTML, and here is the login.php, which is going to process the login informations. Now where I have saved it, I have saved it inside a folder that is login, and which is inside htdocs, and which is again inside XAMPP. Now XAMPP is my suite. Inside that I have to save this all files inside htdoc. Inside htdoc I have created a separate folder so that it can be separated from my remaining projects. So inside this login I'm having this 4 files. So you also have to do what? You have to create, if you want to create your own this type of HTML and PHP linkage with MySQL. So what you do is you save your HTML and PHP file inside the htdoc folder. This is where the XAMPP or the Apache is going to process it actually. Alright, so in the next section and detail I'm going to show you what will be the code, how to write down the code for these individual files. Alright, so be with us. So friends, here in this part you can see that what are the different functions I have used basically in login.php and create.php. These are MySQL Connect, which is used to connect to the SQL server, and after that MySQL error, in order if any error is generated in our query, in that case it will be in the connection. MySQL query is also there, and regarding these all functions that I have used, I have made a tutorial also. You can see my previous tutorials to get the details about all these particular functions. So I'm going to tell you the things in my next part of this tutorial, that where and how you're going to use these different functions. So friends, in this section I'm going to show you how you can write down the commands or code for those 4 files that I have already mentioned in the previous section. Now before I start, I have to start the XAMPP control panel. And why I need it? Because I have to start my Apache and MySQL servers. Now I have already started this. Now for those friends, those who are very new to my YouTube channel, so you please go through my previous tutorial in order to understand what is XAMPP and how you can install and configure XAMPP. So friends, I have already started the XAMPP, the Apache server and MySQL. Now let's start the editor. So I am using Notepad++ editor in order to write down the commands and codes. Now as you can see over here, I'm having login HTML, login PHP, create.html, create.php. Now first start with the login.html file. Now login.html, I have create HTML commands. Here different HTML commands are given. Now I'm assuming that everyone knows about HTML. You know how to write down the code. Just I'm assuming it. Now those who don't know HTML, please comment. I will prepare a tutorial on HTML also if you want it. Now here in this I have created a table tag, and in the table tag I have mentioned login window, user ID and the password. Now let's see how it actually looks. Now this is what it actually looks. Here it is login window, user ID and the password. So this is what it look like after writing this command. Now see over here in the user ID I have written the type as text, means the text box type is text, whereas the password type is I have given password. Now why I do so, let's see. Here I will write down, suppose the username, suppose I write anything, so it is visible to me as what I type. Now when I type the same thing in this password, it is not visible to me. So just for a security reason we can do that. Now again come back to the command. Here this particular table is actually stored under another tag which is form tag. Now this form tag is very important. Remember that because it have a attribute called action, and inside the action I have mentioned the value login.php. Now when I mention login.php, this means when I enter the user ID and the password, and after that when I click on sign in that case those information will be processed by login.php. Alright, now in the coming section I'm going to show you how to write down the commands in login.php. Now let's again move on to another page, that is create account. Now this is required when I don't have any user ID or password. Now I have to create a new user account. So in that case I have to click on this option, create account. So when I click on create account, a new page will be open for me. This page, as you can see, is the create.html. So now see how it looks. Now see the command that I have written for create.html. So I click on create.html. It is same also, like it's also have a form and a table. Now the method is remain same only because I have to give user ID, I have to give a password, and then I have to confirm that password, this traditional method of creating a new user. So same way only. And here I have created having a button called create, as you can see over here, create. And when you click on this create button, what will happen is it is going to send the informations to create.php file. Now create.php is going to process the information of create.html. This I have already mentioned in my previous section, that how the whole logic works. All right. So now this is what the create.php file is. Now In the next part, I'm going to show you that how this login.php and the create.php will work. So stay tuned. So friends, let's see what this create and the login PHP will work. Now in this login.php, this is what the file is. Now as you can see, the first I start with a PHP command, and then inside this I have mentioned these commands. Now initially what I have done is I have used this particular request command. Now this request command is going to do what? It is going to take the record from the HTML file. Now as I have submitted the record from this login HTML using this sign in button, so it is automatically submit to login.php. Now to retrieve those records, the login.php is going to use this command, the request _request, and here as you can see the user ID and the password is mentioned. So user ID and the passwords are the name of the text boxes. As you can see, login.html over here, the name of this user ID text box is user ID and the password text box is password. So these two names are actually used in this login.php, and here login user ID and the password, this is mentioned, and it is going to retrieve the records and store inside the two variables. Now user ID is going to store inside UID variable and the password is going to store inside PWD variables, and these are the other informations to connect to the database. Basically the server name, that is localhost we are using, then DB name. So my database name I have given login, and the username I have given as root, and the password I have not mentioned, so I'll leave it blank. Now the next section is the Mysql Connects, because first of all you have to connect to the database. So this is how we are connected to the database. I'm passing these required parameters, and after that on successful connections it will return a database object. So here it is DB. Now this DB can be used over here to check if it is a successful connection or not. If it is an unsuccessful connection, in that case this message will be displayed as unable to connect, and the proper error description also going to display. Now if it is a successful connection, then this else part will going to run. Now in this section what happened, I just to write down a query. Here it is, the query is select asterisk from account. So account is the table inside the login database. So this account table is having two fields, that is two columns. One is ID, another one is PWD. Now for this particular query I have given ID is equal to UID. So UID is my variable which is having the value from the HTML file. So this is what it is going to substitute, and here password is get substituted with PWD that I have already used over here. PWD variables, it is going to substitute with it, and our SQL query is ready. Now it is going to store inside another variable, select underscore query. This is a string. Now to process this SQL queries, I have to use an mysqli underscore query functions, where I have to pass two parameters. First one is the database connection object, the link object, and another one is the select query. So select query string is over here, so that is only I'm passing over here. So on successful execution it will return a result set, which is going to store inside another variable, that is result. Now I'm checking this one over here, that how many records are retrieved after executing this query. So if it is greater than 0, that means I'm having some records, means I'm a genuine user. So after that, if it is having greater than 0 record, then this will going to display this thing, that welcome and name of the user ID. And if it is not true, in that case it is going to display the invalid user message. Alright, so let's see how it works actually in practical. So I open this one. So I have already written the localhost login and the login.html. Now user ID I just mentioned, suppose I write here, let it be, I have already created one, so just go for this one, user1. So I write here user1, and I'll give the password. So generally a random password I have given 987 like that. So after that I click on sign in. Now it will display welcome user. That is what my condition is true, means I'm getting some value, so that's why it is displaying that welcome user1. Now suppose I enter something wrong. For example, I'll give a wrong password suppose, and I click on sign in. Invalid user, because it does not matches with my database record that I have stored for user1. So the password for the user1 is I have stored 987. So right now I have given some different password, so it's definitely invalid user. So as a result it will show me invalid. Now friends, now suppose I want to create a new user. In that case, what I'll do, I'll just click on create account. So create account is my second page. See, create account is my second HTML, this one that I have already mentioned. Now to process this information, this page will going to process it. So let's see how it works actually. So here I have to mention the user ID, the new user ID, and the password and the confirm password, and after that I have to click on create. So as soon as I click on create, this particular the information will get posted or to this particular page, that is create.php. Now create.php is going to do what? The same thing that the login.php has done. It's first collect all the data from the create.html, which is user ID, password and confirm. As you can see here, you can see the name is user ID, password and the confirm. These are the names of those text boxes that is going to use. Now these are stored inside different variables of PHP, and using the same method, that is request. I'm just storing using the request. All these data will get stored inside user ID, pwd and cnf. Now if the cnf is not equal to password, so that means it does not matches, because I need that confirm password and the new password that it is given, it must match. So if it is not, then it will show the password did not match. All right, and if it matches, in that case again the same thing happened, like we have to pass some database statements, like here database server is having localhost and login root and the password is remain blank, just like the previous one only. So we have to open the connection once again, and after that if the connection is unsuccessful, the message will be displayed like unable to connect and so. And if it is successful, then again a query will be going to execute. Now this time it is not select query, because I have to store the new record, because I am going to create a new account, means I have to store it inside the database. So that's why I am using another command of SQL, that is insert into account. Means insert is the command and into account means the table name. Account is the table name, and what are the different columns it have? ID and pwd. Inside that I have to pass a value. So what will be my value? The user ID, that it's already over here, uid, and the pwd, which is over here, pwd. So this is going to store inside this query, that is insert query. Now this insert query string is again passed to the SQL query function, like same in the previous section I have shown. Now this is what the DB, and after that the insert query, and after that on successful execution, if it is okay, means our query is okay, in that case successful execution, the message will be shown like echo account created, and then the another HTML this one, click to login to page. This one login page you have to click, and just when click on the login page, that login page will going to open. Now let's see the practical how it works actually. Okay friends, now here this is our login page. So in this login page, what I will do is I have to write down the user ID, because I have to create it. It is that the create.html, so I have to create the user ID. So let's see, I create a user ID, suppose user 2. All right, and after that I just type the password. So arbitrarily I can give any password over here. So I just give here suppose 567, and again I write down the confirm password, same only 567, and then I click on create. Now see what happened. Now see, account created, because it is successfully created. Account created with the user ID as user 2 and the password is 567. So it again showing a message that click to login page. So I click, login page will open. Now again if I type over here user 2, this one, and write down the password as 567, and then I click on sign in. See, welcome user 2. So this is how actually this whole process work. So if you go through this individual files one by one, then you can understand that how it actually works. All right, so pay attention. Basically you have to pay attention to these functions that I am using and how it is working. All right, so if you go through this particular thing, you'll understand how the information is actually stored in the MySQL, and again we have to take out those information from MySQL. Means storing and retrieval, both the process is mentioned by this example of login page. So friends, I think you like this particular tutorial, and if you like this tutorial, please like, share and subscribe my channel iTeaches. Thank you very much for watching this.